Hi, welcome to the Guitar Department. I'm your host, Joe Alton. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the song Memories by Maroon 5. We're also going to have a special guest lick of the week. We've got the intro segment to our upcoming series on the major scale modes. And in the tone zone, we're going to tackle our first ever multi-effects pedal. It's going to be a good episode. Welcome to the Guitar Department. So the song Memories by Maroon 5 is actually played mostly on a keyboard. There is a guitar part, but what we're going to talk about is how to play the keyboard part on the guitar, so you get the gist of how the song would be played if you were playing it on a guitar yourself. It does sound kind of similar to the way it's played on the guitar. And what we're going to do, because the chords, the song is actually in the key of B, so what we're going to do is use a capo and put it on the 4th fret. And you can see I've got mine angled in such a way that it's to minimize the detuning of the guitar, this beautiful Fender contemporary Strat that we're Telly that we're playing today. So the chords, once you have the capo on, are G, D, E minor, B minor, C, and that's it. Then you go back to G, back to C, and then back to D. And if that sounds familiar to you, it might be because it's actually a pretty blatant ripoff of the song Canon in D by Pachelbel. If you've ever been to a wedding and you've heard those string quartets come in with the and then the melody. So what Maroon 5 did was they stole that melody, or rather they used that melody and that chord structure and moved it from the key of D down to the key of B. So our G chord is actually representing a B chord. And we're going to play this the easy way. We're not going to finger the whole chord unless we have to. So in the case of the G, all you need to do is put down 2 fingers on the top 2 strings. The 3rd fret will be the middle finger, pointer finger will be the 2nd fret. And keep in mind, since we have a capo, these actual fret numbers are fret 7 and fret 6, but we speak of them relative to the capo, so that makes our 5th fret the 1st fret, and 6 is 2, and 7 is 3, and so on up the neck. We won't go past fret 4 for this song, though. So we've got our G, and with the pick hand, you're going to play the top string, then the 5th string, and then give a little strum across the next 2 or 3 strings. And then the trick to it is a hard stop with the left hand. And the way you do that is just by cupping the strings with that hand, not enough to push down. If you push down, you'll get a hammer-on type of sound. And what we want is for the chord to stop cold. Just like that. Then we're going to jump to the D chord. And again, for the D chord, we don't need to finger our full standard D. What we're going to do is not use the middle finger note and just use, you can use whatever fingers you'd like. I'm fingering it as though it's a standard D. So the pointer finger's on the 2nd fret and the 3rd finger is on the 3rd fret. Now the rhythm to this one measure is actually the same rhythm that happens in the next 4 measures. So if you're counting it, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then when you go to the next measure, the chords will follow that same rhythm. The first one will be 1 and 2, and the second one will be and 4, like that. So what we're going to do for the next chord is an E minor, and you're just going to take your first and second fingers and plant them on a standard E minor chord on the second fret of the fifth and fourth strings. Same thing with the right hand, hit your top string, your fifth string, and then give a little strum over the next 2 or 3 chords, and then give it a hard stop. Notice I'm using the pinky and third finger in this case. And then we're going to reset for our B minor chord. Now, technically, we're just playing a B power chord here. Just the second fret of the fifth string and then the fourth fret of the third and fourth strings, putting down 2 fingers to make sure I don't get the major third, which would sort of make the tonality sound weird. You can, however, finger a full B minor and add the middle finger to the third fret of the second string if you want. I don't know that that's in the song, but if you hear it, feel free to add it. Just like that. Then we move on to our next sequence. We've got a C chord. And we're actually going to play a C major 7 for this chord. We're going to leave the octave of the root off, and we're just going to play 2, 3, 0, 0. And so our pick hand is going to do the same thing, except now we're moving down to the fifth string, fifth, fourth, and then a strum, and a hard stop. And then those move up a string for our G chord again. Then back down to the C. And it wraps up with our D chord one more time. And that brings us back to the beginning. So let me do that one more time, really slow, so we can get each individual beat in there. So when you practice this, be sure you practice it one whole measure at a time to get that rhythm and the change of the chord. Just that far, and then you have a second to change and set up for the next second. And then when you get to there, move on to the next one. And that's how you play Memories by Maroon 5. And now it's time for us to talk about our next sort of theory segment that we've got coming up, our series on the major scale modes. Now, the major scale modes, for me, were kind of a gateway to learning music theory, diatonic music theory, which is something that we'll sort of be diving into as we talk about these scales. But in essence, the major scale modes are a collection of scales that are each based on a different note from the major scale. To put that another way, a C major scale has the notes C, D, E, F, G, and A, and then B, and then it comes back to C. And that's what you get when you play the notes of a C major scale starting on C and ending on C. You might recognize that from the Sound of Music, the Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do scale. It's really sort of ingrained into our Western music pantheon here. But if you don't start on C, you end up getting different scales. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the pattern for the C Ionian scale, which is just a fancy word for major, and the pattern for the G Ionian scale, which would be up a string starting on the top string. But mostly what I want to talk about is this concept of starting on the different notes to achieve a different scale. And what we'll be doing over the next few weeks is going over each of these scales and talking about their individual uses and the chords they create and how you might apply them to your playing. So if you were to start on the C and play all the notes in the key of C, you get what's called a C major scale, or a C Ionian scale to use its modal name. If you weren't to start on D, if you start on the second note, the D, that will get you what's called a D Dorian scale. if you start on the third of the scale, the third note, which is E, you'll get what's called an E Phrygian scale. If you start on the fourth, you get what's called a C Lydian, or excuse me, an F Lydian scale. If you start on the fifth, in this case the G, you get what's called a G Mixolydian scale, and I'll move it up an octave here, or down an octave, so that we can get the whole thing. If you start on the sixth note, this is the second most common scale, you get what's called a natural minor scale. In this case, it's A minor. And if you start on the seventh note, in this case B, you get what's called a B Locrian scale. That one's a bit of a weird scale. And then if you go one more step, you're back on C again. So we've completed the entire cycle, back to the C major or the C Ionian mode. And here's how you play it on the guitar. So there are several ways to play a C major scale, but I'm going to discuss the pattern starting on the fifth fret of, the third fret of the fifth string. And so I'm going to use a one finger per fret method, and we're going to have a shift midway through to carry the second octave. We're going to start with our middle finger on the C, the third fret of the fifth string. We're going to move from that to the pinky on the fifth fret, and at that point we're going to change strings, and it will be the E on the second fret of the D string, followed by F on the third fret, and G on the fifth fret. And then we hit our G string. Now we're going to play the A on the second fret, the B on the fourth fret, and then logic would have it that we're going to play our C, our octave, with the pinky finger on the fifth fret, but we're not actually going to do that. What I'm going to do is shift positions so that my pointer finger takes over, and that'll be our octave note. So there's the end of our first octave and thus the beginning of our second octave. From there I'm going to move to the seventh fret, and then I'm going to shift strings again, go down to the second string, and we're going to go 5, 6, 8. Musically speaking, those notes are E, F, and G. And then back on the first string, we're going to go A, B, and C, or in terms of frets, 5, 7, and 8. So again, that whole pattern. And be sure you practice it descending also, meaning that you start on the 8 that we just ended on and play it backwards. Notice that I did the shift the exact same way. First finger, third finger, first finger, third finger, and coming back down the same way. Third finger, first finger, third finger, first finger. And that's how you play a C major scale or a major scale with the root on the fifth string. Now once you have that pattern down, you can move it to wherever you need the major scale to be. And that's why instead of moving up to the 8th fret for the C major scale, we're going to stick to the 3rd fret and switch it to a G major scale so I can show you how to play it with the root on the 6th string. Now the first half of this scale is exactly the same. You're going to start with your middle finger on the 3rd fret, pinky will go to the 5th fret, then we'll go down a string and we'll go 2, 3, 5. So pointer finger, middle finger, pinky finger. And then we'll go down another string and it'll be 2, 4, 5. Down another string will be 2, 4, 5 again. That's pointer finger, ring finger, pinky finger. And then on our second string, we'll go middle finger to pinky. And then we'll end it with just 2 notes on the bottom string, the first string, 2nd fret and 3rd fret. So we have one pattern. It doesn't shift and it doesn't vary from these 4 frets. 3, 5, 2, 3, 5, 2, 4, 5, 2, 4, 5, 3, 5, 2, 3. And that's a G major scale. So the notes there are G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. And that's the first segment of our major scale modes series. Be sure to check us out next time. We're going to talk about the Dorian mode a little more in depth. That is how you play a C Ionian and a G Ionian scale. Coming up next, we have a special guest lick of the week from Central Iowa Music Lab owner and prolific Des Moines area guitar player, James Bean.
Hey, James Bean here, and I've been invited to do the lick of the week this week. So this lick I like to play kind of stems from being infatuated with steel guitar players and slide players, but kind of trying to use some of that tonality towards standard guitar playing. So we have this lick that's kind of, you've heard it quite a bit, which is like to where we start at the 5 and the 6, high E string and the 6th fret of the G string, like that, and then we kind of slide up, kind of playing in 6th, 7, 8, 9. And this is over an A chord, and I'm going to hit the A string. Now what I've started to do is take it a step further and take every note that's on the G string and bend it a half step up. So instead of this, I'll come back here to the 5th fret with that G string and go. And so then I apply that to the other 7, 8, 9, which means I have to come back a fret on the G string for all those. So it kind of takes what's a normally relatively common lick and kind of bends the ear a little bit, especially if you're on the back pickup of a Telecaster. So it takes that idea and just, like I said, just kind of adds a little kind of weepy, crying element to it. So there you have it. That's the lick of the week.
And now it's time for us to enter the tone zone, and today we have the wonderful Moore, or Moore, I'm not sure how it's pronounced actually, GE 150. And despite the fact that I can't pronounce the name, this pedal is actually awesome. This is a multi-effects pedal, and it's the first multi-effects pedal we've had on the show. For me, my first ever pedal was a Zoom 505 back in 1990. But this pedal has upgraded so much since those years. It's one of the top of the line amp modelers, and let's start there actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the value knob, and they've called this one British 800, which is a pretty on the mark way of saying that it is a copy of the Marshall JCM 800. Marshall is a British company. Usually if an amp is referred to as British, they're trying to copy a Marshall sound. So here's what they've got for a Marshall JCM 800. Very classic rock sort of sound, traditional sort of AC/DC. I'm going to flip it one more. We're going to take a look at the 900, which, again, as the name implies, is really sort of it implies that it's supposed to be the JCM 900 series from Marshall. And you can hear it's got a little more modern distortion sound to it. Here, I'm going to flip up to the bridge pickup. Now, that's not all this thing has to offer, though. We're going to take a look at, I've marked off a few presets here for us to take a look at. This one is called Dirty Rat Lead, which again implies that it's based off of the Proco Rat. Got a really good modeling sound, but you also might notice it's got a little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay built into it. I don't know how well the mic is picking that up, but it doesn't just end the way it would if you were plugging in directly to a Proco Rat. Let's take a look also a couple notches back, one of the more ambient sounds. This one is called Power Bell Ambi. If you listen to that echo and that reverb, that goes on for days. I'm going to flip this back up to the neck pickup. And that has got reverb for days. That is all, I'm just double checking here, that is all from the pedal. There isn't any reverb on the amp right now. I can still hear it. That's amazing. All right, next up, we're going to skip all the way to number 32. Excuse me, number 34 for the Jazz 120. It's got sort of a nice sort of hollow body jazz sound, even though, again, I'm not really playing a hollow body at all with this Telecaster. Next, I want to demonstrate how they've got a few lined up in a row here. Again, this is sort of an amp modeler as well as a multi-effects pedal. So we're going to take a look at numbers 16, 17, and 18. This one says Mark III Clean. We'll flip that. I'm going to use the pedal here to flip that to 17. This is Mark III Rhythm. And then one more notch, which again, I'm using the pedal to do that this time instead of the dial. So we have a pedal up and pedal down option. We also have a dial option for if it's sitting on your desktop. This is Mark III Lead, so they've just built in a lead tone to the same amp model. And again, you can hear they've added some reverb, they've added a little more power to the distortion. They've got some delay built into it, and it's also got a noise gate so that when you're done, it cuts off all the sound and you can mute your guitar and not have a staticky sort of background noise like that. Now, there's a couple more I want to look at. This thing has some great acoustic simulators. They are up in the 60 range. So here is the first acoustic sim. And again, I've got my bridge pickup on, so let me slip that up to the neck pickup again. It's a pretty good acoustic simulator. We have two more acoustic sims here. So here is the second acoustic sim. You can hear they've added a little bit more stage sound. It's got a little more reverb to it. And then the last one of the acoustic sims, number 3, in this case number 62. Now obviously having an acoustic guitar plugged into an acoustic amp is the best way to achieve an acoustic sound, but in a pinch this thing will double as an acoustic simulator and it does a pretty decent job. The other thing this thing does really well is it gets weird, and so I've got a couple of those to show you here too. This one's my favorite. It is called Blue, and in order to show it to you properly I need to go one more. That one's called Illusion, and you can hear it's very ambient and very reverb infested. Now I'm going to play those same notes, but I'm going to play them through the blue setting. I don't know why they call this one blue, but check out what it does. I don't know what you would use it for, but that one's a lot of fun. And then just on the other side of that, here's Black Hole. That one's pretty fun too. It's got a little bit of a volume swell to it. So again, there are 200 presets on this thing. It's also got a built-in tuner, a built-in looper, and some built-in drum tracks that you can control the speed of, and overall you can edit them. You can edit all of these effects really, really easily. If you just tap on the second dial there, it brings you to all the effects that they have stacked, and you can go in, you can edit every single one of them, the distortions, the gates, and it functions as an IR downloader, which is an impulse response downloader. You can plug it into your computer and download other people's impulse responses, which is what each of these settings are called. It's just a fantastic pedal, a heck of a practice tool too, and if you're new to effects and you don't want to spend thousands of dollars building up your pedal board, this might be the better way to go. This is the Moore GE 150, our pedal of the week. Thank you for tuning in to the Guitar Department. I've been your host, Joe Alton. I want to thank Riemann Music for giving us a place to shoot this show, as well as supplying this beautiful contemporary Squier Telecaster. Look at this thing. It's got hot rails. Anyway, I also want to thank Bryce Jarrett, our producer and cameraman, holding double duty today, and our special guest, James Bean, owner of the Central Iowa Music Lab, and be sure to check him out as he's playing around the city. And right now, we're going to do a 12-bar blues with James Bean.
Hi, today the lick of the week is going to be out of a Dorian. I get asked a lot of times, how do I get the sound that I play when I'm playing blues? And a lot of guitar players ask me, well, are you playing a minor pentatonic? And I say, no, I don't actually use a minor pentatonic. I actually use a scale called the Dorian. And what a Dorian basically is a minor pentatonic with the addition of the second scale degree and the addition of the sixth scale degree. So by having the second and the sixth, it just colors the chord progression a lot more. Also, one of the things I think about is when I'm playing to the chord, I think about maybe altering a note for the chord. And I'm explaining this because the lick that I'm going to show you is going to emphasize both of these two concepts. So when I think of playing out of a 12-bar blues, the chord that is usually played is a dominant seventh chord. And the dominant seventh chord has a major third. But in a minor pentatonic, we have the minor third. So what I usually do is when I'm playing against that one chord, I'll alter that minor third and play a major third. So I'll play a line like this. And so this will be the lick. And I'll show you exactly what I'm doing here. So what I'm actually doing is out of that minor pentatonic, I'm starting on the third string with my first finger. And so I'm playing my first finger, then I'm playing up to that major third with my second finger. And then I'm going to play the second string with my first finger. And now this is the note that's an octave higher of that Dorian note that I was talking about, that 6 scale degree, so I'm playing. And so I'm playing 1, 3, 1, 2. I can't count. 1, 2, I'm thinking that's the third, and that's why I said 3. So I'm moving up to that major third of the chord. 1, 2, 1, and then I'm playing my third finger on the second string, and then my first finger on the first string, which is outlining that A7th chord. And then now I'm coming down catching the 7th, and then I'm going back to 1. So I'm playing so far. 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1. I'm going to 3 on the third string, back to 1. Then I'm going to play once again that first finger, moving it up to the third and ending on the 1. So the line is. So let me go through those notes again. 1, 2 on the same string, the third string. 1 on the second string. 3 on the second string. 1 on the first string. Catching my 7th, 4 on the second string. 1 on the second string. 3 on the third string. 1 on the second string. And I'm going to play the 1 again, roll it and kind of hammer on, and then end on the 1. And that really emphasizes the chord. It kind of spells out the chord because you're playing all of the chord tones in there. You have the 1, the 3, the 5, the 7, and the 1. That makes up an A7 chord. And that is your lick of the week.